Is Isengard abridged? But it's the final part!
Yes, we're here for part 17 of Isengard Abridged, where last time we had a showdown with the Khazad-dûm Dwarves and defeated them. Then we started a war with Dorwinion and took down their stack of generals, also taking one of their territories. We've now prepared some armies to go and fight Enedwaith as well, so we're moving out to take revenge on them as we move towards achieving the victory conditions. It seems that Dorwinion have spawned a free stack or something. This message appears to be saying something to that effect. So, looks like we'll have something to take down as we continue on with our war against them. They've only got one region, it's Karras sent over by the sea in the east, and we're going to walk towards it. Luckily we have military access with the Easterlings. Our spy scopes them out here. No free stack here by the looks of things, a fairly ordinary looking force inside the town and some Easterlings already there. By the next turn, once we're a bit closer, those Easterlings have annoyingly laid siege to the town. So if we go over there and help, then the Easterlings will end up getting the capture, and that is not what we want, so we'll wait around and hope things change, and as it happens they do. Looks like the Dunedain are attacking my precious Dunlending, so we're going to have to break our alliance with the Dunedain unfortunately, and the ring has been found again. I thought maybe Sauron already had the ring, because it said he'd come back earlier, but I guess not. It's down somewhere pretty hard for us to get to, pretty much impossible, but maybe Mordor will get to it at some point. Anyway, back up at Karras, we now have the situation we wanted because the Easterlings have been killed. After I hacked through all these pointless diplomacy messages, you can see that a full stack of enemy troops has appeared around here somewhere. Looks like it's taken the Easterlings out, and now I can come in to fight them with my two stacks. We're fighting them separately, of course. Even after the enemy retreat there, they don't retreat into range of each other, which is almost a shame actually because there's no siege draw out here. As for this first stack, we actually had a big advantage against it, so I thought, well, I'll just auto-resolve that and we'll fight the second one. We actually get a really bad auto-resolve. Our first army loses half of its troops, including all of the trolls. That is very nasty indeed and not what I wanted at all. Although there is a silver lining to all this, because the enemy retreat again, they are now in siege draw out range of the town. So actually, once I reorganize my force and basically form one coherent stack with it, we can go for a decisive battle to decide the fate of Karras, all or nothing, with not too much on the enemy side really. We have a slight advantage. The enemy do have various units of paladins, some heavy cav that we don't have that much of an answer to in our force, and they did give us a lot of trouble even fighting our pikes in the previous battle. As for everything else, nothing too remarkable aside from more generals. Their first army, the smaller one, decided to hang around and fight with us while their bigger army's still working their way onto the field at the back. So that helps us out a lot. We can have an easy time against this smaller group. Looks like their archers got the classic older Total War glitch where you can't fire or you have to wait for your animation to end before you move or something. So the skirmishing isn't going very well for them, and more to the point, we just ran at them to stop the skirmishing from happening because it's probably to our advantage. I'm aiming to basically surround and annihilate the initial set of units, and then still line up ready for a nice easy battle against the proper army coming in behind them. Although they did last quite a long time, some of these units, even the levied units, wouldn't die to my berserkers as fast as I wanted or needed in this case. Still, we're going to get most of the result we need. We do really heavily damage that first army, and many units were unengaged, ready to face the second army as they ran onto the field. The only thing we're really missing is that some of our pikes on the right there are bogged down fighting an enemy general, so we're lacking for anti-cav stuff. On the left we had a mixed bag with that, because while some of the enemy cav ran into my one unit of spears, they've got plenty more and it's going around behind my force, their little cav wing, and I'm starting to get worried about that. I'm basically going to commit some stuff forwards and then try and send some reserves to, well, not necessarily kill those guys, but just keep them occupied so they don't run into the back of the melee line. That's about the best I can offer them by sending like raiders to go face their paladins. Meanwhile on the right there are more paladins coming in, and I'm going to try and get my pikes to very gradually shuffle over to fight them. That's going to take a while, and in the meantime we're just going to have to eat their charge. Luckily they charged into some berserkers there, and with their 2 hit points they don't all die right away, so we'll get that fight going, and berserkers, while having inferior melee stats to the paladins, won't get annihilated like our raiders will, as we saw in the previous fight with Dorwinion. In fact, here are some raiders getting killed right now on topic. Luckily they're only fighting the inferior cav, like the regular cav units, so they don't get completely flattened, and they successfully just keep the enemy busy behind our lines. so they don't end up doing that much damage. And I also discovered that my hillmen, my archers, seem to be a spear unit. They tank a charge from the enemy cav really well, and they end up fighting back and killing them. So I'm guessing they do actually have a bonus against cavalry units, and I just never knew. Nice to use it right at the end here and not while we were fighting Rohan. Anyway, as for the rest of the battling, I'm not really paying too much attention to what's going on. Basically, our troops are quite good. They also have units that are quite good and are inflicting damage to my general's bodyguards. But overall, we're going to have the advantage in a straight up melee where no one's paying any attention, so that's fine. We just need to work our way through the enemy's cav. That's their most powerful asset right now, and gradually they're getting ground down by having to fight all of my stuff. You can see on the balance bar by this point, we're going to win. We've already killed all their weak units, freeing up extra stuff for us to go and do outflanking maneuvers, surrounds and pounds and the like. The only thing prolonging this battle is that I think their faction leader somewhere on the field still alive, and their cav are doing the Rohan style thing where they keep disengaging and running about to change who they're fighting. But as I said, at this stage, even if they take amazing fights, they can't kill all of us, so we'll get them eventually. At some point we find and kill that enemy faction leader, I think that's the guy anyway. We also killed their faction heir and another general in this battle, which will come back to haunt us in a second actually. Unfortunately, that kill of the faction leader didn't cause a chain rout or anything. Even these levied troops are fighting at 90% casualties still. I would have thought they'd have lower morale. Maybe they're just aware that this is effectively a last stand for their faction. After a while, the battle finally ends. Looks like we lost about a quarter of our army. Not that it really matters, because this is the final stop for Saruman on his campaign east. We are pretty much golden. The enemy are going to be all dead. In fact, they're 2 dead, as alluded to earlier. Because we killed tons of officers, we actually destroyed their faction. Now they don't have any family members left, and this causes our siege drawout to fail. Since their settlement turns over to be a rebel settlement, this spawns a new army inside, so now we have to go back to besieging the place, and we'll have to take it next turn. This doesn't really make any difference whatsoever, but it's slightly annoying. Now let's take a look at the Enedwaith front. We've got 2.5 stacks on the way over there, the half stack being some trash that we see on the road next to my main force here. The Dunlendings are already besieging the Enedwaith capital, but they've been doing that for literally the entire campaign. Well, not literally the entire campaign. For the last, say, 100 turns, they've been attempting to besiege it, and I guess it keeps spawning a garrison because they always get defeated in battle, which I know because I've had my spy standing here watching, waiting for them to take it for that long. Well, it's not been happening, so instead we move in the next turn when, sure enough, all of the Dunlendings have been killed somehow. The place is damaged, but it's not damaged enough to be breachable. There's no hole in the wall, so we'll start a siege. It was now that I realised that we're not really going to have any sort of showdown here. There's basically nothing inside, and even my first army alone could absolutely stomp them, and soon we'll have even more stuff coming from the east. So we'll just besiege them and see if Enedwaith can put anything together to challenge us in that regard. Meanwhile, another stomp is taking place over at Karras as we just auto-resolve the rebels, doesn't matter about taking losses. Sack the place up, and that's that. We get a trait that doesn't do anything. I'm guessing because Saruman's already the sacker of something else, getting another sacker-based trait doesn't increase his stats. Anyway, so he's completed his march, we've reached that bit of sea, and now everything around us is allied. In the next turn, we pick up most advanced and strongest faction. We are number 1. Still, we need a couple more regions to officially win the campaign, and I thought, well, since we're surrounded by allies, maybe there's a way to do this with a change of strategy. That being, we try and pay to win. I started going around trying to buy regions of other factions. This interface makes it really hard because it's just a list of names. You need to try and find one that's not worth very much so that they're willing to sell it to you, but still counts just as much towards the region count, of course, so buying up some rubbish regions will help us out. Unfortunately, in that case, I didn't find any. I'm sparing you the very long time I spent trying to get something off the Easterlings. As for Enedwaith, once my reinforcements arrived, I thought, well, we'll just auto-resolve that trash garrison and move in. I figured we'll probably face a big stack of stuff that's going to appear, and then that will be our final showdown with these guys. But actually, it seems they were destroyed much more than I expected. The entire faction is deleted as a result of us taking their capital. It seems to be some sort of scripted event or something. What I think happened is all of their territory has been given to the Dunlendings. So now our ally just controls the massive yellow part on the minimap down there. We have to go and reveal it all to see what exactly has happened. And as it turns out, yes, the Dunlendings are now all over the place. So that's that. In the end, there was no showdown with Enedwaith. We just showed up, finally put the nail in the coffin that the Dunlendings have been trying to do for ages, and the Dunlendings ended up getting all of the reward as a result. Well, I guess we have this one territory, but I thought we'd get at least the small group of territories near us, and that would take us up to the region count. So now we really have to buy stuff off our allies, or go and invade someone else, which is a bit too much effort for me at this late stage in the game. Mordor are supreme. Apparently, which seems a bit mean. I feel like it's weird that it's supreme. We've done most of the work in taking over the world of man so far. I think it's because Mordor's starting to surge now. Sauron's alive and they've actually captured a decent portion of the eastern part of Gondor. We can slightly rectify that by taking some territory off their hands, by switching some stuff from them to us. This is a double win. So I had to go through this list here and again try to find something that they're willing to sell me. And after a while I eventually came across a deal that was apparently balanced. I have to give them 20 grand and agreed to give them a grand every turn for 20 turns, but we don't worry about that because we're coming to the end of the campaign. We can make promises we're not going to keep. And there we go, we get a territory off them. I had no idea what this territory actually was, but it turned out to be one that's actually probably what I would have chosen if I had the choice. It's the one that's next to our territory essentially. It gives us some better road access between our eastern and western territories. Well, not actually road access, but passability access. And just generally extends our borders in a logical fashion. Also comes with a bunch of free ballistas as a special gift. In the next turn I tried to spend a similar amount of money on the Easterlings, but they weren't willing to sell me any of their territory, so that failed. I brought the same deal over to the Dunlendings, and luckily they were willing to sell me something, and they will sell me Lond Angren. This is another pretty natural purchase for us to make because again it extends our borders, it's connected to where we were before. Also we used to own Lond Angren very briefly, so we've got a bit of a claim to this place. Comes with a free set of Uruk-hai bodyguards. You can recruit them, but it just turns into a general, so we've got a non-general form of the general's bodyguard. Probably pretty good units to use, but in this case we're not going to be using them. There was one other project I had in mind for getting some more territory, and that is to build an army at Balorn, that place by the coast I got ages ago in the bottom left of our territory, and send it to attack the corner of Gondor, where probably not much was going on, I thought, although there was a half stack defending a castle there. We can't attack them at the moment because we are allied to them, unfortunately, and at this stage that's going to have to come to an end. You can see Mordor's got armies just stomping through Gondor all over the place. Really, it's probably time for us to actually align with the Dark Lord and pretend we're going to help. Or, perhaps more to the point, it would be time for us to try and conquer all of Gondor ourselves so Mordor don't get it in terms of our rivalry with Sauron. Anyway, I spent a while trying to get a diplomat over to Gondor to actually cancel the alliance. We achieved this in the next turn, and then we have a bad breakup really. This guy is very angry with us not caring about how we're treating them, but I like to think we're doing this out of love. They would rather have someone who really loves them kill them rather than that pesky Dark Lord, so we'll start killing them instead. We set up the siege at this place down in the bottom left. They don't really have a chance there, so we're guaranteed to take it next turn, basically. There's also another way into Gondor that I actually only discovered upon investigating whether I should invade them. It's right here. I didn't realise this area south of Karras was passable. So here we are, we move into the Gondor border and take 2 forts right away. There's another town just down the road. Can't see the garrison, but probably not too much given how preoccupied they are with Mordor. Then I get this deal with Dol Guldur. They were willing to sell me a territory for an absolutely phenomenal amount of money, and that actually completes the campaign for us. We've reached the cap, which was 30, or the target I should say. The territory I purchased was another real good one that rounds out our territory. Need to get rid of this broken victory message to look at it, but basically we've won, so keep that in mind. And here's the territory I bought. This one gives us a nice link between New Rohan and Lothlorien, so now our territories really are actually linked up by a road, and our domain feels a little bit more continuous. Looks like we have some work to do to get public order going, but I'm sure they'll be fine with us. Our domain really does look quite mighty and steadfast, and if we took Gondor as well, which would be the next logical move, I think we would surely be the champions of Middle-earth. I did auto-resolve that place in the bottom left of Gondor to quickly capture that. There we go, now we're looking a bit stronger. We could also move down and take this Gondor town here, although I have to wait another turn. And this is the very final turn, so I actually didn't do that, but in principle we could grab that territory as well. I also got this territory off Mordor for another massive sum of money. I bought Calenhad. This is the town on Gondor's border with Rohan, which is now our border of course, so this is another natural expansion for us. And getting it at the expense of Mordor right now is perfect, so we're in a pretty strong position to not only usurp a certain amount of Gondor's territory as Mordor basically screws them over, but then, if we needed to and wanted to, betray the Dark Lord. I'm pretty sure all of the other evil factions might end up at war with us if we did that, so I don't know whether you can do it. But anyway, we're not going to find out because this is the end of the Isengard campaign. We have been utterly victorious, and we're just going to look at the scores to see if there's anything interesting in here. Looks like we are the #1 faction by overall points, whatever that means, so that's good to know. Seems like number 2 and 3 are Mordor and the Easterlings, so a strong showing for the evil factions. I think we're doing quite well militarily. I believe when it's saying we are the quote-unquote strongest faction, that's what it means. We just have the most units compared to other factions, but plenty of other close contenders. Production, well, who knows what that even is. I guess we're doing okay. Territorial, we're actually not on top anymore. I think Mordor has made a pretty strong comeback after they started invading Gondor, so they are now well ahead, and we're actually tied with like the Easterlings or something. Don't really know because the colours on this graph are very similar. Something like that. Population, well, we're probably okay. I have my taxes low across the entire empire, so our people are surely reproducing happily very quickly. One random anomaly that I found while clicking about in this screen is that in the financial rankings, where it's basically how much money each faction has at the start of each turn, Khazad-dûm is by far and away the richest faction, or was I should say. They had functionally infinite money by the looks of things. They had orders of magnitude more wealth than everyone else. And look at what they did with it. Well, they didn't make very much progress. Not sure how they had that money. Maybe the AI wasn't programmed to spend it. They should have had like 100,000 stacks of troops all over the place, but I guess they didn't. I think there might be some scripted stuff going on with their faction or something. Anyway, this is the end of the campaign, as previously hinted, so thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. There are some other campaigns I'd like to do in this mod. I think maybe playing as Rivendell would be quite interesting. It's a similar situation to Isengard, where you start off with only one territory, so it's a nice upward climb to deal with. I don't know, and probably some other ones as well, but we're not going to do that right now. First we need to move on to something else, and the next thing that I've got lined up for an Abridged campaign is Warhammer 2. I'm going to be playing as the Dark Elves, the Dark Elf faction that starts in the bottom left that I forget the name of. Well, you'll see soon enough, because I've already started making it. It should come out in the same week as this video, so keep an eye out for that new campaign. And if you're here at the very end of this series, for your dedication to watching this OffiD Lord of the Rings themed content, you might be interested to know that I have an hour-long compilation of me screaming and doing weird voices in a Lord of the Rings sort of setting. There is an unreleased This Is Content video that was made many years ago in the Dark Age or the Golden Age of This Is Content. So I'll throw a link to that unlisted video in the description, so if you want to see something, then go check that out.
Oh, decomposition of stored foods, you say? Oh, now you've piqued my interest. Looks like mold's back on the menu, boy. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. This is what you're getting. This is your content now. Blah, 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 blah.
It's all good stuff. Aside from that, thank you very much for watching this campaign. Go check out some of my other ones. I've got a whole load, and they're all easily as good as this one. I'll see you another time, folks. Bye-bye!